Dear students, I welcome you all for the online learning platform for the course Warehousing Automation. So now we are learning this course through online platform. In the process of learning, right now we are learning the Unit 4 decision making process in Warehousing Automation. So in the first half of the Unit 4, we discussed about the various applications of decision making, the need, necessity, everything. Then followed by the goal setting and the objective setting. Again, it was followed by the various aspects of decision making, especially the three core components, namely cost, scalability and compatibility, and finally how it can be decided. So these all are the things what we learned in the first half. So in the second half, we are learning about the various applications of tools which are available in to assist the process of decision making, within which we learnt about SWOT analysis in the earlier tool. So SWOT is a collection of four terms: strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. So within which we learned that it is nothing but a war between positives and negatives of the problem or the alternatives what we have got. So this is what we learned in the till the last presentation. So this presentation will take us to the next topic, CBA, cost benefit analysis. So cost benefit analysis, also known as CBA, it is a data driven approach to evaluate a project or decision's financial benefits and cost from a business perspective. So earlier concept, it was a multifunctional team, and that multifunctional team came towards to solve by means of analyzing the strength and weakness with respect to the opportunities and threats of the solutions what we came across with. So as I told you earlier, it was a tug of war between the positives and negatives. And now this particular tool will be purely into the perspective of finance, that is cost versus benefit. See, we are going to invest some amount of money or huge amount of money in order to get a technology into our process. Now the benefit what we reap out of this particular project versus the cost what we spent should have a very good correlation between them. So this CBA is going to be purely of that nature, where we are going to deal with the different costs associated to such processes, and we'll be analyzing the benefits as well as the costs associated in this regard. Okay, so to recall, similar cost we just discussed with respect to optimal decision making strategy, not the cost, that is capex, opex, that is capital expenditure, operational expenditure, not such things. These costs are entirely different. This is with respect to the functionality, that was with respect to implementation, okay, whether to decide or not. And now it is how to decide, what all are the costs associated, and how it will be financially, it will be a benefit for the organization, will be the core essence in this particular CBA. So FCBA involves defining the project scope, identifying costs and benefits, assigning monetary values, calculating the net present value (NPV), analyzing results and making informed decisions. It compares the total expected costs against the expected benefits to determine the project's overall value and feasibility, often in the form of a ratio. So two takeaways are there in this regard. The first takeaways, let me come from the designing case, that is the first output from the CBA in the designing order. When you see, we'll be getting a ratio. Okay, so this ratio will be telling us whether to proceed with the project or not. There will be a threshold value. If it is less than the threshold value, it is decided that not to proceed with the project. The project is not financially benefit for the organization. On the contrary, if it has outperformed the threshold value, then it is blindly believed that yes, the process or the project what we do is financially benefit for the organization. So that is the role of the ratio. And now coming for the next thing is, we are going to calculate NPV, net present value. So first understand, be informed that this particular concept, that is CBA, cost benefit analysis, is purely from the perspective of the finance. Though it is performed by engineer, the input will be from the engineering department, but still the final decision will be only from the cost point of view, from the finance point of view. Why? Because at the end of the day, the organization is involving itself with respect to some business functions. So therefore, we should be very cautious enough as far as the cost is concerned. Okay. So with this thorough understanding, it will be easy for us to understand this particular topic. So two takeaways in this particular slide. The first thing is CBA is going to give the answer in the form of ratio. So the threshold value, usually the threshold value will be 1. If it is beyond 1, the project is considered. If it is below 1, no, it is not considered, or the case to case it is going to differ, and it is going to do calculations. Calculations are there, but as far as our syllabus is concerned, we are not going to do any sort of numerical problems as far as this unit is concerned, but we'll know the formula, we'll understand how it works and all the associated costs. So everything will be with respect to the identifying cost right from engineering department, but it will be into the decision of a finance perspective. That's it. Okay. So cost benefit analysis compares a project or decision's estimated or projected costs and benefits. It is a vital component of project management because it measures a project's financial feasibility and helps companies avoid losses. So the first foremost objective here is the technology what we adopt, or the technology related equipment what we adopt should never incur loss to the organization. That is the foremost criteria in this regard. That's the objective indeed. So the financial feasibility, okay, see, we are going to invest crores or lakhs together, at least even a rupee is considered to be an investment, right? So when you do all these things, the company should never face a loss. Okay, how to overcome such things? Whether the decision what we make, why? Because it is not supposed to be based on emotions. That's what we have been learning right from starting of this unit 4. So based on emotions, no decision should be taken. It should be based on a rational thinking. There should be a logic behind the decision what we arrive, what we consider for implementation. So this tool is going to help purely from the finance point of view. And one more thing is how it is going to be used for the case of decision making. This is another interesting fact. Now we have got two technologies. Say for example, we have got two CNC controllers. Which controller will be doing our best? So one is say Siemens controller, and the second thing is say Fanuc controller. Which one should we go on? One is a Japanese made and another is a German made. Both are very good in the market, vendor development or the supplier support, the company's existence, the future, everything. Whatever the things we discussed in the first half of the unit 4, it is fully satisfying, fully functional. Everything is found to be same. How to go ahead with the decision? This is the question what we need to answer. So we do SWOT analysis and we understood that both are having very good strength. They are having very good opportunities for the case of implementation, but still there is a tie. So CBA comes into picture. So we can use CBA. So it do not mean that only one tool you should be used for decision. No, we can go with multiple tools and we can draw inferences from all these tools and we can come for a consensus. We need not to do everything on a very narrow perspective. Let us have a wide broad perspective so that we can get into a proper decision. So now how it is going to do is, it is going to be purely from the finance perspective. So first finance perspective is, when I wanted to buy a Siemens, what all are the associated costs? We need to identify. We need to identify right from beginning. Then similarly do it for the same Fanuc controller. Then what benefits we gain out of it? Then substitute everything in the form of a formula. Get the NPV value, net present value. Then get into the very important concept of calculate the ratio, CBA ratio. So which one is good? We select. So that's how we are going to do. See, do not mean that only when there is a tie we should go. No, these are the multiple tools. Any tool can be used at any point of time. Okay. If the analysis shows that the benefits outweigh the cost, that is, benefits are greater when compared to cost, we can assume that the project will be profitable for the company and that project is viable to proceed. We can proceed with that particular activity. In contrast, if the costs exceed the expected benefit, the project is not viable and should be rejected. So always benefits should be high when compared to the cost. We are doing expenditure of 100 rupees. The benefit what I get is 90 rupees. No, the project or the activity should be reconsidered. Before rejection, it should be reconsidered. On the contrary, we spent 100 rupees, but the gain, what we gain is say 150 rupees or 100, more than 100. Okay, then obviously the project can be considered. So that is how we draw inferences out of it. So it is very simple, and but identifying is going to be very crucial things, so that we learn in the upcoming slide. Cost benefit analysis. Project initiation. So how, under what stages should we get into cost benefit analysis? The first thing is, the moment we kickstart with the project, we initiate the project, this has to be done. Why? Because not at the end. At the end, when we do, we'll be maybe in lack of time, or we'll be forced to do because of the tight target dates. So the best case is always to do at the initial stage itself. Then there might be a doubt how to know the costs. What all are the different expenditures are they? That we should forecast. So that is where the role of engineer is essential. Not everything, after everything you have got documented, then anyone can do. So for that, skilled engineers are not essential. Any semi-skilled, or even some cases Tally software or something itself will solve the purpose. So that is not the need. So at the initiation of the project, at the starting of the project itself, we are supposed to forecast the costs involved. Then the second, budgeting. When we do multiple projects, obviously budget will be a constraint. Budget will be a constraint for an organization. So by evaluating the anticipated benefits, CBL will tell whether to approve allocated budget or not. So there are two activities are there. Say we wanted to do ASRS, as well we wanted to buy AMR. So which one to go ahead with? So we give all sort of SWOT analysis, everything, and despite doing all these things, still we are unable to, or we are not in one particular case where we are stuck out with what decision to come out, means CBA will clearly tell. When you go with AMR, the benefits are very high when compared to the cost, but when you go for ASRS, it is not the same case. Costs are very high rather than the benefit, means then budget can be purely allocated for AMR. So likewise, we can come for a concrete as well as logical as well as statistical result the moment when we go for CBA. Resource allocation. This is another interesting point. Why? Because resource utilization and resource availability, these are the two things which often any industry, irrespective to the nature of business where they are involved, they are going to do this particular activity. Resource availability is 24 hours. 24 hours is common for any organization, but resource utilization, whether are we utilizing this 24 available hours is productive, are we utilizing the equipment? No, definitely it is not going to be same. Okay, so that process can be converted into or in the form of CBA, and we can understand this. So resource allocation, we can effortlessly calculate the ROI and identify which projects will be more lucrative, which one is going to be more attractive in terms of benefits. Lucrative means not in the context of appearance, in the context of benefits. When we go ahead with AMR, maybe the workload, the workforce exertion by the operators, by the employees may be least, and it does everything with very ease, and safety is enhanced, risk is minimized, then we can go for it. So that is how we decide. CBA can optimize the resource allocation and distribute them more efficiently, especially when integrated with project scheduling softwares. See, I want you students to recollect the concept what we learned in the layout configuration in Unit 1. That means we work in a very close association with civil engineers and architects. Architects to a minimum expect, but civil engineers will be dealing a lot when you are doing any construction of warehouse right from scratch, right from beginning. When we are going to do, so obviously they are going to have a project scheduling software, so try to involve CBA into it. So integration comes into picture. Okay, so another extension of cost, that is optimality. So optimal strategy. So how can you come out with a very optimal strategy as far as cost is concerned? Means we can integrate with project scheduling software. So at all walks of the activity, we can know the cost benefit what we reap at each and every stage. So that's a crucial thing. At each and every stage we can know. Risk management. See, two terms we have been often in any of the unit we discuss, two terms often they come. The first is cost and the other thing is risk. Why? Because we wanted to do the brisk business with minimum risk. Okay, so we wanted to do a good business, and of course risk should be as minimum as it can be. Risk means don't consider from a finance point of view. Here risk means operational risk. See, we are having ASRS. When you click the buttons of ASRS, it is going to retrieve the product from the warehouse. On the contrary, you are having a manual warehouse. Manual warehouse, the person should go, he should deliberately take the product, bring back. That might be bulkier in nature, or it might be hazardous in nature, or it might be delicate to handle. Different types of natures of products we have got. So here the risk is high. Okay, so that is where we are focused, where we wanted to have minimum risk. Don't have an understanding that from a financial risk. That's different. Here it is only with respect to the potential risks of operation. Okay, so risk management is also going to be high. Okay, improving communication. See, once an engineer, say an automation engineer, wants to develop all sorts of things right from scratch, see, he is going to involve in all the portfolios associated with this warehouse. So obviously communication is going to increase, because technical conversation do occur among all these entities, and especially in industry there is a concept called as Kanban. Okay, Kanban means continuous improvement, not uh, like KPI. It is in lines of KPI, but it's a different sort of setup. So Kanban, it is going to help us for a quantitative approach, because it should not be emotional. Decision making should not be emotional. Decision making should not be qualitative. They are not going to yield us long term or long lasting results. They might be yielding us some short term results, but we wanted to have a long lasting results. So therefore we are interested to go for quantitative approach. So that's the reason for CBA, and as a byproduct of this particular activity, we are going to deal a lot with stakeholder, and therefore communication is also going to be good. So it is going to be an indirect advantage, a byproduct. Policy development. See, at the end of the day, standardization is very important. You do all sorts of fantastic things. There are some best practices we have observed in due course of these activities. So obviously that can be made into a policy. We can make a framework. We can get it properly tested, as well as properly checked at all walks of management, hierarchies of various levels. And if it is okay, then it can be made as a proper policy. So to culminate with the introduction for CBA, CBA is going to give us informed decisions to evaluate the projects. In this context, evaluate alternatives for proper decision making, align with the organizational goals, optimize the resource use, and maximize the project value. So these all are the things. Indirectly as well directly we are going to get, and indirectly increased communication among the stakeholders. So this is what indirect benefits of cost benefit analysis. So due to its data-driven nature, CBA can also be applied to product analytics, product development strategy, and other economic decisions. Whether using agile or waterfall methodology to manage the projects, CBA is crucial. So this point we have discussed earlier, that having done all sorts of technical comparisons, still we are locked with identifying which particular controller example what we took earlier, either Siemens or Fanuc. So CBA will give a very clear picture, because it is doing everything in a very formal case. So now we'll get into the key components. What all are the key components of CBA are: the first is costs, the benefits, time frames, and discount rates. So in the earlier case, SWOT, we never discussed nothing with respect to that is finance point. Now everything is in the finance point, including time. Okay, so that's where the tools are going to offer advantage in various perspectives. So based on cost, when we do, there are four types of costs are there. The first is direct cost, second is indirect cost, third is intangible cost, and the fourth is opportunity cost. So these all are the four different types of costs what we have. So now we'll discuss everything one by one in detail. So now CBA, we knew that it is going to deal a lot with respect to the cost. The moment when we discuss about cost, there are four types of costs are there. So first cost is direct cost. So first, what does cost means? It is the expenses what we incur on one particular activity, that is called as cost. See, today I am earning 100 rupees. Maybe for evening snacks, I just had some sort of a relishing dish and I have spent 50 rupees. Now this 50 rupees is my expenses and that is considered to be cost. Okay, we spent the money what we spent on certain activity is called as cost. Now when we classify them, there are four types are there. The first is direct, second is indirect. So direct means in the perspective of an industry, it is associated with directly to the process. What is directly to the process? Let me go with an example before defining this. A company is engaging itself to the production of crankshaft. They are manufacturing crankshaft. Now direct cost in this here is the materials which are useful for the production of crankshaft. We are buying raw material. Say today I am buying 1 kg of raw material. This 1 kg of raw material is called as a direct material. Why? Because this material is going to be added value. It is going to be given a proper shape, size and dimension, and that final product is called as crankshaft, and that is the one which we are going to sell in the market. So that is called as a direct cost. So direct cost again we can subclassify as direct material, direct labor, direct expenses likewise. So first is direct cost, the materials which are directly associated to be converted into a final product and that final product can be sold in the market. That is direct cost. And second thing is the direct labor. People, those who are involved straight away into the process for the conversion of raw material into a final product is called as direct labor. So they are the one who convert this material into a final product. They are called as direct labor. And wages, the wages paid to them associated. See, labor as well as wages both are same. The services what they render, we are going to pay for them. So these things accumulate under direct cost. So to understand in a very simplified form, so direct cost means any value added activity pertaining to the product of the industry is called as direct cost. Now second, indirect cost. See, usually indirect costs are the secondary layer of the direct cost. Now we need to do all these manufacturing activity in an industry, okay, in a workshop. Now will we be paying rent for this particular building? Will we be having office? Will be having security? Will be having other administrative related expenses? Say for example, generator will be there. There will be canteen will be there. There will be associated utilities, facilities will be there. Now they are not directly involved in the production. They are not nowhere they are involved into the conversion of the raw material into the final product. But still they are inevitable in the process. They are the supporting activities. Such supporting activities are called as the amount what we spent on such things are called as indirect costs. Okay, so direct cost is it is straight away the people, the facilities, the resources which involve themselves to convert the raw material into finished product, and that finished product is going to be sold in the market. Such costs are accumulated under a direct heading called as direct cost. And the secondary layer of direct which never involved into the real conversion of the raw material into the final product. However, they are associating or auxiliary element to convert this particular process, and such expenses are going to be called as indirect costs. The third, intangible costs. Intangible costs are something like a negative penalty for the function loss what we are supposed to do. Okay, example, customer dissatisfaction, productivity decrease, loss of goodwill likewise. So this is a general understanding. Now let us think from the perspective of warehousing automation. So we have sent a parcel, that parcel has been damaged during transit. Now product got damaged. Now the customer will be returning to us. So such return goods are going to be a profit for the organization? No, it is going to be a loss for the organization, and such things accumulate under intangible costs. So intangible costs are the one which we pay or which we spent amount incurred for the non-performance of the requirement. Okay, it is not deliberate, it is not due to negligence, it might be due to uncontrolled reasons, and such things are called as intangible costs. Opportunities cost. So opportunities cost is, and extra activity by which we get because of some sort of reasons. Okay, so it might be little bit to understand the definition. So I will give you an example directly. From then we can come for the definition. See, during COVID, everyone would have been understood. We had a large pandemic and we got just stuck inside the four walls of our home. So that's how the life went on. But all of a sudden, what happened is there was a huge surge with respect to the oxygen requirement. There was a surge in the oxygen requirement. Now, companies who have this oxygen generator plant, they worked, but their actual business is something else. They were doing some industrial gas production or something like that. They never produced for the case of hospitals because the quality of the oxygen is different, but still due to the exigency they were forced to produce and they supplied. Okay, so this is called as opportunities cost. Our actual business is not that, but because of some situation, because of some emergency exigency cases, we involve ourselves for the production of some activity, and that is called as opportunities cost. But to give away a tail end bit in this regard, actually people they produced oxygen from industries which were not to the medical standards, but still because of exigencies they just went ahead with, and they had one disease called as mucormycosis. The fungal element, the fungus present in the impure oxygen. See, oxygen was pure, but the quality of the air was not to the medical standards. So therefore, the patients whomever involved inhaled such things, they just got mucormycosis. Okay, so fungal infection was there in the lungs. Of course, it was given with an additional treatment. So it was something better than nothing. That's how it has to be taken. So opportunities costs are there because of some extraordinary situations or extraordinary surge in demand of something. We get into particular activity, and because of that we generate money out of it, and that is called as opportunities costs, or some cases the expenses what we incur in this regard, even that is also being considered. Now, benefits. First, we saw about the types of costs, four types of costs: indirect, direct, then opportunity, and the one more we just discussed. Then benefits, the benefits. So here benefits: direct benefit, indirect benefit, intangible benefit, and social benefits. So similarly, intangible cost there we saw, here intangible benefits. So that's how four there and four here. Direct benefits, the revenue what we go ahead, what we earn out of it, the savings what we get out of minimizing or doing some sort of savings. See, don't have a misconception that cost cutting and cost saving are same. No, they are not the same. Cost saving is different, cost cutting is different. No company will do cost cutting, but they will be involving themselves in cost saving. Indirect benefits: productivity improvements, time savings. Intangible benefits: customer satisfaction, brand reputation. Social benefits: environmental preservation, reduced crime, better health. See, reduced crime may not be applicable for warehousing automation, but here crime means legislations. That's how we can go ahead with. If there is an accident in the organization, obviously that has to be reported to the inspector of the factories. So that has to be, so that's how it has to be taken, not with respect to the criminal proceedings what we have in our civil environment. Now the formula. The formula is net benefit is equal to total benefits minus total costs. So we are going to do the ratio to recall the thing what we had in our discussions in the starting of this presentation. Ratio, benefit cost ratio, other terms BCR, total benefits divided by total costs. So if the BCR is more than one, like efficiency, NETA, where we have one now. So if it is more than one, the project is financially viable. If it is less than one, the project is not viable. So this is going to be a crucial as well as interesting decision what we get out of it. Now the steps, how to do it in the stepwise. So first is define the objective. What is the objective? What is your goal? What identify the costs and benefits? So list all sorts of possible things. It might be qualitative, it can be quantitative, it might be objective, it might be subjective. So list all the things, and later on you can brainstorm and you can add or delete. But initially don't do any sort of things, just irrespective to its severity, you just go ahead with. Then assign monetary values, give values for each and everything, convert the constants into variables by assigning values. Then if at all any discounts or anything is there, apply the discounts and finally know the net present value. Okay, and with these values we can substitute everything into this formula and we can get. So NPV will be the summation of the difference between the benefits at the time and the cost at the time divided by the discount rate with respect to the time. Okay, so from this formula we can calculate. And after calculating the NPV value, compare the cost versus benefit so that we can do the CBR ratio. Now do the sensitivity analysis. Why? Because some cases we would have had some sort of assumptions. So best is analyze again. After doing all sorts of results, blindly don't make just draw inferences, implications from the CBR, analyze everything thoroughly and make the recommendations. So the advantages are, it is very cleared and structured decision making tool. So it quantifies financial as well as non-financial impacts, encourages considerations of all alternatives, helps allocate resources in a very effective as well as efficient manner. Okay. So with this we come to the end of the presentation. So to summarize the presentation, we discussed about the important features of CBA, how the CBA works, what all are the 4 different types of costs, 4 different types of benefits, everything we discussed in detail. Then how to calculate the CBR by using the formula, and we discussed about the role of NPV if discounts are applicable. So with this we finish the topic of cost benefit analysis. Students, I thank you once again for a kind patience and listening to this video lecture. So any doubts, please note it down. We can discuss in the offline classes or during the online discussions. So thank you one and all. Thank you again.